Chariot is part of the pre-Stags set of 5 games simulating tactical warfare from 3000 BCE to 1550 CE. It is set in the most ancient period, 3000 to 500 BCE. And it's one of my favorites because it reminds me of the sword and sandal movies that were popular in the 50s and 60s, and more recent movies like Troy and Alexander and Gladiator. I'll be playing the Armageddon scenario, which is also the name of an earlier game that Chariot is based on. Honestly, I would rather have that game due to the better graphics on the map. Armageddon has palm trees and mud brick buildings instead of the generic symbol for forests and towns here. Also, the hills on Armageddon were more realistic than these flat-top plateaus. However, the scenarios are basically the same based on what I've seen on Board Game Geek. This scenario has the Egyptians, the green units, trying to exit 15 units off the southwest corner of the map in 10 turns, excluding chariots, and I'm sure leaders wouldn't count either. The Egyptian has an advantage in being able to stack 2 units per hex, while the Judean player has a stacking limit of 1. The Judean has more infantry units, but 10 of them are the weak militia infantry units. The Judean also has the advantage of occupying the slopes and the woods, which double their defensive strength. Now, even unopposed, it would take 5 turns for the Egyptian player to march from their starting point to the exit hexes. The Judean player only has to hold them up for 5 turns. So it's pretty much impossible for the Egyptian player to win the scenario-specific victory conditions. However, the generic victory conditions, where you just compare victory points, the Egyptian player should be able to win easily. Now, the Egyptians are going to concentrate their militia spearmen. Where are they? These units right here on the narrow strip of clear hexes, which is defended by the Judean axemen. This will enable them to use their stacking advantage to the fullest. The bowmen and skirmishers will try to protect the flank of the Egyptians, and most of them will be riding in chariots. The Judeans will try to hold the slopes with their own militia spearmen, and they'll also try to make as many counterattacks as they can. The attacker never suffers an adverse combat result in pre-stags. The Judean archers and skirmishers will also attempt to score a few D results on the Egyptian infantry, which could result in more E results in a melee combat phase. So the Egyptians will attack the slopes with the axemen. Now, militia spearmen and militia infantry units defend at half strength against axemen, but axemen attack at half strength when going uphill. So when they're on the slopes, or if the axemen are on the slope and the spearmen are on the hilltop, the axemen will be at half strength. So those two rules pretty much cancel each other out. However, the Judean axemen are defending against Egyptian militia spearmen. So they can, when they make counterattacks, they'll be using that advantage. But the Judeans will be stacked, the Egyptians will be stacked 2 to a hex. So once again, that kind of cancels itself out. Still, it's going to be 1-to-1 attacks. A 1-to-1 has a 50-50 chance of disrupting the defending unit. So that could slow down the Judean or the Egyptian battle plan considerably. Okay, now I'm going to move the Egyptians on turn 1 and the Judeans, and then come back and recap what I've done so far. Okay, the turn 1 movement been completed. All the Judeans did was move an axeman into this vacant spot, and they also started moving the militia infantry up. The militia infantry are only going to threaten the Egyptians' right flank, and they're really not much of a threat because they're very weak, and the axemen can attack. A stack of 2 axemen can attack the militia infantry at 6-to-1 odds. I'm trying to use all the optional rules, facing, and of course I'm using command radius rules, so I'm going to, it's very difficult though with these units. I'm going to straighten this axeman out. It's easy to disrupt a stack of 2 or 3. The chariot, 2 chariot units, carrying units with a leader is 5. It's very difficult to move around without, and also keep, facing to one hex side. Anyway, the militia spearmen are moving to the left. They look to attack these clear hexes, possibly force a way through. The chariots here have the 8 improved bowmen on them. They're going to fire in advance of the militia spearmen's first assault. They're going to try to get a shot in, maybe disrupt an enemy unit. The Judean bowmen are up front in the hope that they might disrupt some Egyptian units before they can make any kind of attack. Just slow them down a little bit. But their range is 1 at full strength and 2 hexes at half strength, and that's it. They're bowmen, not improved bowmen. The Egyptians have a 2 hex range at full strength. The skirmishers are being held to the right flank to hold off the militia infantry, and after the melee starts on the Egyptian left, the chariots will take the bowmen also over to the right flank. The militia infantry, to make any kind of attack, would have to cross the stream. When they're in the stream bed, their fire defense strength is only 1. Fire defense strength is based on the terrain, not the combat unit. So when they're in the stream, it's a 1. When they're on the hillside, let me double check. Yeah, it's 4. So the attack strength is only 2 of the bowmen and improved bowmen. So that's 1 to 2. You have to mass your archers against 1 unit to really make any kind of effective archery attack. Actually, when on the slopes, they can be eliminated by archery fire, but they can't be disrupted. That's why the bowmen aren't being deployed against the militia spearmen of the Judeans. So I'm going to make the turn 2 move. The Judeans won't have many moves to make. I don't think they're going to get any kind of shot in with their bowmen, so they'll probably pull back on turn 2. And I'll come back and recap. After turn 2, the Egyptian chariots with improved bowmen are deployed all the way to the left. What they're going to do is take advantage of chariot movement when the Moshe spearmen are fully deployed and ready to advance in melee. I'll explain that in a minute. Meanwhile, the axemen are deployed and prepared to beginning their assault on the slopes. The skirmishers are still holding out against the advancing Moshe infantry, holding the line, I should say. The Moshe infantry have not entered the stream. The skirmishers being stacked in two per hex have a fire combat strength of 4. When the Moshe infantry enters the stream, that's a defense strength of 1, so 4-to-1 attack is a 50-50 chance of eliminating the unit, and if they're not eliminated, they're definitely disrupted. So it's not something that the Judean player should do recklessly. Now, the the Judean axemen now could move forward and attack the chariots and the bowmen in the chariots. Their defense strength is only 2, but then they would have to retreat. Here they're on a solid line. That would disrupt their defensive line. They would have to retreat, and using the facing rules, they'd be very vulnerable to a flank attack, which means they would defend at half strength. So that wouldn't be a very, I think, wise course of action. The bowmen, the Judean bowmen, have all moved back behind the line because the axemen of the Egyptians could have advanced advanced and melee attack the bowmen, even though mounted on chariots. Well, that would have forced them to retreat before combat anyway. So without any result, then the axemen would just then assault the Moshe spearmen on the next turn, I guess. So anyway, it's unlikely that they were going to get a good shot. If they were eliminated in melee combat, they're each worth 3 victory points. The chariots are worth victory points, at least 1. So I think it's going to be very hard for the Judeans to score any victory points, and the Egyptians are probably going to score quite a few. So you don't want to give them easy ones. The axemen are worth 2, and the Moshe spearmen are each worth 2. So that's the Moshe infantry. They're only worth 1. So they're just going to threaten the Egyptian right flank and probably not mount any melee attacks. They might end up redeploying, possibly to hold the line on the left. Now the leadership, I put the highest ranking Judean leader with the militia infantry so that they can all move. They'll all be within his command radius. Actually, these 3 units are now out of command radius, so they can only move half their allowance, but they're not going to move next turn anyway. All the other are within command radius. All the Egyptian units are within command radius. Now, I think leadership is very important in this game. So, although the 2, 3, and 4 level leaders all have a combat bonus, if they suffer if they suffer disruption or elimination, they'll get reduced, or half elimination, that is. They'll be eliminated if the stack they're with is also eliminated. So I think they're really too valuable to risk at the front line. Now, fire combat does not disrupt or does not reduce the leader unless the combat unit is eliminated. But the 4 leaders are removed from the board if their unit is disrupted, the unit they're stacked with. 3 leaders are reduced to a 4 leader, and 4 leaders have no combat radius or command radius. They do not get changed to 5 level leaders. Those are special leaders in the Chariot game only. They have a very good command radius, but no combat bonus at all, so they will always stay out of the front lines. They're needed to move the troops, though. All the Egyptian units now at the end of turn 2 are within command radius, and all the Judean units, well, all of them are not. This bowman, for example, had his movement allowance cut in half. When he retreated, he is left facing to the rear. But he's in no danger of being attacked this turn or next. So now we'll prepare for turn 3. Maybe I'll make an attack. I'll see how the militia spearmen are deployed at the end of turn 3. Turn 3 is now complete. The Egyptian bowmen are ready to launch an archery assault against the Judean line. Then they will deploy to the right flank to protect the river line against the militia infantry. The Egyptian militia spearmen could, no, they'll have to, some of them could attack next turn, but I think they'll have to wait till turn 5 before they're all ready to attack. Melee attack the Judean line. The axemen, however, are ready to assault the militia spearmen on the slopes. The Judean skirmishers have held this river line, and it should be apparent to anybody that they're going to be out of the battle. Now they could possibly advance against the Egyptian right flank here, but they have very poor melee strength, and on defense, the melee strength is bracketed, meaning they defend with a strength of 1. So they'd be chopped up pretty quickly, just like the militia infantry. But the Egyptian attack on the left flank is taking a little bit longer to develop than I would have liked as the Egyptian player. The Judean axemen could still make a preemptive strike against the Egyptian archers, but it really wouldn't be effective because the chariots can always retreat before combat, and the axemen wouldn't gain much, but they would be separated from their defensive line, possibly in danger of being cut off, and as or if they retreat back to their own line, they could be taken in the rear by the militia spearmen, which means they defend at half strength. The facing rules are very you only have to get with these optional facing rules, you only have to wait till the unit has turned the other way to get a flank attack. The standard rules call for you to have a unit on or adjacent to all 6 hexes surrounding a unit, but not with the facing rules. And I think they're much more realistic and, of course, more challenging. So turn 4 will definitely see some combat, I think. but the spearmen need to another turn to prepare their attack. And I'll now make my turn 4 move, and I'll let you know the first I'll do the chariot movement and explain what happened. I decided against the chariot movement because the chariots carrying the improved bowmen were already within 2 hexes of the axemen. So instead, I just launched an arrow attack against the 2 axemen units, these 2, and disrupted 1. Then in the movement phase, the chariots deployed back over to the right flank, and now the militia infantry is facing quite a formidable defensive line of archery units. Meanwhile, the militia spearmen have advanced, except for the straggling unit here, which is now out of command control. But he'll be joining the line shortly, I'm sure, next turn. The axemen have advanced. Now here's the attacks I intend to make. This unit can attack straight ahead at 2 to 1. These 2 will gang up on this disrupted unit, and this will attack straight ahead at 2 to 1. That's a 4 to 1 attack plus 1. The axemen are also going to combine to attack this unit at 4 to 1 and this unit at 4 to 1. I've kept the leaders behind the line that want to counterattack to risk disrupting, even at 1 to 2 odds. Losing a 3 leader, he's got a command radius of 1, and a 4 leader has a command radius of 0. So he has to be stacked with the unit, like all these Judean unit leaders. They have to be stacked. All the militia spearmen in the front are out of command control. The 3 leaders are on this side, the Judean right flank. So the axemen are in command and control. They're really not going to move anywhere. They're just going to defend. And they will make counterattacks on the Judean turn. But first I'm going to resolve the Egyptian attack, and then come back for the Judean counter move and tell you what attacks, if any, they're going to make. Okay, at the end of turn 4, the Egyptian units, the Judean units did counterattack. They scored 2 disruptions, and they also are in contact here with 2 Egyptian units. Contact is an optional rule, and it just means that these 2 units can't move or attack anybody else. They have to attack each other only until the combat is resolved. We need a D or E result, or half E for the Egyptians, because they can stack with 2, obviously. And now the disruption units for the Judean units will be now removed to begin turn 5, but the 2 disrupted Egyptian units will be disrupted through the Egyptian player turn, and then their disruption units will be removed. So it's very difficult to disrupt a unit and then attack again. You need your archers to do that. So anyway, now we're going to begin turn 5, and this Egyptian unit here, it's going to have to resolve the combat on its own. It's not going to get any assistance from this unit or others. Now, other units can reinforce the unit that's in contact, and that's what this axe unit will do on turn 5. Meanwhile, I've decided to start moving the militia infantry across the stream, move the skirmishers around to somewhere in the middle of the Judean line, and they're out of command control though, and they're not going to get a leader, so they can only move their movement allowances in half. So I round up. I think that's what the rule says. It's kind of ambiguous, but I'll consult it again. Anyway, it's going to be a very slow process, and they don't have any leaders to spare. And the militia infantry can only move 3 hexes anyway. They don't want to, if they're redeploying and they just about face and march away, then the skirmishers can cross the stream and flank attack them from the rear. The skirmishers have, like I said, an attack strength of 2. But the archery units, the improved bowmen, cannot melee attack. Okay, so now we'll begin turn 5. Okay, the Egyptians have moved. We're going to have a 4-to-1 attack here. 4-to-1 on him. This will be a 2-to-1 attack. No, I'll make that a 4-to-1 attack, both these units. And this will be a 4-to-1 attack. The unit in contact, plus this axe unit has moved up to reinforce the attack. So the contact probably will end this turn. These 2 units will continue their combat at, it'll be 2-to-1 in favor of the Egyptian. So I'm going to resolve combat and then move the Israeli unit and also resolve their combat. Okay, at the end of turn 5, the Egyptians have eliminated 2 more Judean units and disrupted 2. They advanced on this side onto the slope in 2 locations, but they're still fighting uphill. They've eliminated another axeman over here, and this Egyptian unit advanced, but was attacked by these 3 Judean units and disrupted. So we end up the turn with 2 Egyptian units disrupted and 3 Judean units, but I take their disruption off at the end of turn 5, so they'll be okay. They won't be disrupted to start the Egyptian turn. The Judean militia infantry is trying to regroup in some way, to deploy to some kind of useful position, as the skirmishers are. And it's very, very difficult with only the 1 leader, even though he has command radius of 2. But right now these units are out of command control. And the skirmishers, the Judean skirmishers, oh, what's he doing? Apparently I brushed this one over somehow. Okay. They're ready to advance and maybe start attacking the militia infantry. The improved bowmen can also cross the stream, even though they won't get that 4-to-1 attack. They can still inflict a lot of casualties on the Judean militia infantry. The only thing that makes me reluctant to do that is they're not very valuable. Right now the Egyptian has 8 victory points and the Judean player none. The Egyptian has to score 41 victory points to demoralize the Judean army as a whole, in which they would just retreat en masse. they could be rallied, but with only 5 leaders, that's not too likely. That certainly would be considered another victory, but it wouldn't help. It's very difficult to reach that level of victory to inflict that many casualties. So I'll move on to turn 6 and come back after the Egyptian movement phase. Now turn 6, the Egyptians have finished their movement. The only really movement they did was advancing over the stream. I've been calling it a river, but it's a stream. The skirmishers have advanced and are going to attack the militia infantry. These chariots have also fired at the that militia infantry and disrupted it. These 2 chariots, one has 2 skirmishers, one has 2 improved bowmen. They have used chariot movement to fire at that militia infantry at the end. And the other 2 skirmishers are going to melee attack this turn. And there'll be several other Egyptian melee attacks. Along the line, and I'm sure they're going to make, I will come back and recap after the Israeli turn. This is now over. The skirmishers attacked and eliminated 1 militia infantry unit. The militia infantry counterattacked and was not able to disrupt this 1 unit, but now those 2 units are in contact. Actually, all 3 should be, because they participated. And some other militia infantry got across the stream. They're still facing, they have their back to the enemy, but they really will have time to turn around and face, do an about face. The Egyptians failed to eliminate this unit despite a 6-to-1 attack. They did score another axeman eliminated, but they mainly disrupted the Judeans. And now there's what, 1, 2, and 3 battles that are still ongoing. That's what the contact counters mean. But the Egyptian units can't move, and this unit will be disrupted next turn for the Egyptian turn. So they're going to have to resolve this without reinforcements, because this one is going to be tied up. Anyway, I'll move on to turn 7. We'll see how the battle on the right flank, the Egyptian right, turns out. But the militia infantry looks like they're going to try to make a stand, and the skirmishers are moving to back up the units on the hilltop. I don't think they'll be able to contribute much though, but the axemen are being thinned out pretty rapidly. They've lost, well, they've only lost 3, but the holes are starting to appear. Holes in the line are starting to appear. Okay, and I'll come back. I'll do turn 7 and come back. And this is being set. Won't turn off. I've completed turn 7, And the Egyptians are continuing their slow but steady progress. They've eliminated one more axe and one more malicious spearman. They're occupying the slopes now, and they need one more successful attack to get a unit up onto the hilltop. Notice that the Judeans had to send a skirmisher up to defend the hilltop. They only have a strength of 1, but they're running out of infantry units. They've lost, let's see, 4 axemen and 4 militia infantry. I'm sorry, 3 militia spearmen and 1 militia infantry. On this side, also the Egyptians just disrupted a whole bunch of Judean units. This contact is now over because the Judean defender was disrupted. The militia infantry continue to redeploy across the stream, but they're pretty much out of the battle. They're not, they're just too insignificant, really, to waste time with. And before the movement, before at the beginning of the Egyptian turn, the chariot units carrying the improved bowmen crossed the river, fired at this one unit, and disrupted him, and then retreated back across the stream. Now, they didn't have the option of defensive fire, but that was not important. They weren't going to be attacked anyway. So with 3 more turns left, the Egyptians have really no hope of getting anybody off the map edge. These 5 hexes at right angles. But they have 15 victory points, and the Judeans have none. So they're going to be not achieve their victory conditions, but they're going to win certainly a decisive tactical win. Now to turn 8. Okay, turn 8 is complete. The improved bowmen in the chariots, once again, use chariot movement, the chariot phase that is, to advance across the stream, disrupt a militia infantry, and then retreat back during the movement phase. An Egyptian axe unit then crossed the stream to join with the skirmishers. They eliminated 1 more Judean MI unit, and the other 2 were disrupted. The rest of the MI has now retreated across the stream to hold that line, but the Egyptians aren't really attacking that way. There's not only the stream to get across, but then the woods hexes back there. Meanwhile, the Egyptians were unable to advance to the hilltop. They attacked this unit, but just got a D result. And they did eliminate 2 more axe units. And the Judeans have now pulled back a hex to try to maintain a continuous line. But they also scored 1 disruption, and there's still these units in contact. There was no, once again, the attacks, the combat had no effect. So they'll be in contact for a while. I'm just going to finish up, play turns 9 and 10, and show you how the game has ended up. Turn 10 has been completed, 9 and 10 that is. The Egyptians have eliminated a couple more axemen and another militia spearman. They didn't get another unit up on the hilltop, but also the Egyptian bowmen eliminated one more militia infantry. The other militia infantry have been eliminated completely, but the Judeans still have a continuous defensive line. It's all bowmen, unfortunately, who won't stand up against militia spearmen for long. But turn 10 is over. The Egyptians did not exit a single unit off the map, but they inflicted terrible casualties on the Judeans. These are all the eliminated units: 7 axemen, 6 militia spearmen, and 5 militia infantry eliminated. So the standard rules have the Egyptians winning a decisive victory, but the scenario-specific rules have the Judeans preventing the Egyptians from winning, I guess. Can't really call this a victory. The Egyptians did not achieve the victory conditions, but pretty one-sided game. I guess when you have a stacking advantage, it's pretty decisive in favor of the attacker. So they did manage to get 1 unit up the hill. It's inevitable that they would have gotten more if this game had continued a little longer. But, well, we'll take a look at the Spartan game next. That's got 2 very famous historical battles, Cannae and, of course, Marathon. I haven't decided which one I'm going to use, but I'll be setting that up next. Thanks for watching.